When the storm forced a desperate father and his 7-year-old son into an abandoned forest home that was barely standing, he thought survival was the only miracle he'd get that night. But what he found hidden beneath the rotting floorboards would turn their lives from poverty to fortune in ways no one could have predicted. Before we dive into the story, make sure to smash subscribe, because tomorrow we have an extra special story for you that will blow your mind. The sky over Timber Ridge, Oregon, had been bruised purple for hours, thick clouds pressing down like a fist waiting to strike. Marcus Reed stood outside his trailer, staring up at that violent sky with his hands shoved deep in his jacket pockets. The wind had teeth tonight. It bit through his flannel shirt and rattled the aluminum siding of the mobile home behind him. He was 34 years old, but his hands looked 50. Calloused and cracked from years of fixing other people's problems while his own kept piling up. Inside, his son Tyler sat cross-legged on the worn carpet, coloring a picture of a house. Not their trailer, a real house. One with a porch and a tree out front. The kind of place Marcus promised they'd have someday, back when someday felt possible. Tyler was 7 now, with dark hair that stuck up in the back no matter how much Marcus tried to smooth it down. His eyes were wide and brown, still soft with the kind of trust that broke Marcus's heart every time he couldn't afford something basic. New shoes, a warm coat, a birthday party with more than just the two of them. Marcus's wife, or ex-wife, he wasn't even sure what to call her anymore, had left when Tyler was 4. She didn't leave a note, didn't pack her things carefully. She just walked out one Tuesday morning while Tyler watched cartoons and Marcus was fixing a sink 2 towns over. By the time he got home, she was gone. Her phone was disconnected within a week. He heard through a friend of a friend that she'd moved to California, started over, found someone new. Someone without the weight of a child and a toolbox and dreams that had died quietly in a trailer park. That was 3 years ago. 3 years of Marcus learning how to braid hair from YouTube videos. 3 years of packing lunches with whatever was left in the fridge. 3 years of working himself to exhaustion so Tyler wouldn't notice how broke they really were. He took every job he could find in Jackson County. Plumbing, electrical work, roof repairs, fence building, anything that paid cash and didn't ask too many questions. Most months, he barely scraped together enough for rent at Pinecrest Mobile Home Park. The manager, a man named Gil with a beer gut and suspicious eyes, had started knocking on their door on the 1st of every month. Sometimes Marcus had the money, sometimes he didn't. Tonight, though, money was the least of his problems. The National Weather Service had issued an evacuation warning 6 hours ago. A storm system unlike anything the region had seen in decades was bearing down on the Cascade foothills. Winds up to 80 miles per hour. Flooding. Potential mudslides. The woman on the radio had used the word catastrophic 3 times. Marcus had stood in the kitchenette, listening to her calm, clinical voice describe the destruction headed their way, and felt something cold settle in his gut. Their trailer wasn't built for catastrophic. It was built for cheap. The roof leaked in 2 places. The windows rattled even on calm days, and the whole structure sat on cinder blocks that had started sinking into the soft earth years ago. If the storm hit as hard as they said it would, this metal box wouldn't just leak. It would fold. Marcus turned and walked back inside. Tyler looked up from his drawing, crayon still in his small hand. "We gotta go, buddy," Marcus said, keeping his voice steady. "Where?" "Away from here. There's a big storm coming." Tyler's face didn't show fear, just the quiet acceptance of a child who'd learned early that life moved fast and you followed your dad. He set down the crayon and stood up. "Can I bring my cars?" Marcus nodded. "Grab what fits in your backpack. We're leaving in 10 minutes. They moved through the trailer quickly. Marcus stuffed clothes into a duffel bag, grabbed their emergency cash from the coffee can under the sink, $173, and swept canned food into a grocery bag. Tyler packed his backpack with toy cars, a stuffed bear missing one eye, and the drawing he'd just finished. Marcus grabbed his toolbox out of habit, even though he wasn't sure why. Tools wouldn't stop a storm. By the time they loaded everything into Marcus's truck, a 2001 Ford F-150 with rust eating through the wheel wells, the wind had picked up. It screamed through the pine trees surrounding the park, bending them at angles that didn't look natural. Other trailers were dark. Some people had already left. Others, like Old Man Carver, 3 lots down, were boarding up windows with plywood and hoping for the best. Marcus buckled Tyler into the passenger seat and slid behind the wheel. The engine coughed twice before turning over. The fuel gauge sat just above a quarter tank. Enough to get them to Grants Pass, maybe. There was the emergency shelter set up at the high school. Red Cross, cots, hot meals. It wasn't much, but it was safe. He pulled out of the gravel lot and onto Highway 99, heading south. The rain started before they'd gone 5 miles, not a gentle rain, a wall of water that turned the windshield into a churning river. Marcus leaned forward, gripping the wheel, his wipers slapping frantically but barely keeping up. Tyler sat quietly, his backpack clutched on his lap, eyes wide as he watched the storm swallow the world outside. Traffic was heavier than Marcus expected. Evacuation routes were clogged with cars moving slowly, brake lights glowing red through the downpour. They crawled forward, mile by painful mile. What should have been a 40-minute drive stretched into an hour, then 90 minutes. The storm wasn't waiting. They were 15 miles from Grants Pass when the radio crackled with an update. Highway 99 South was closed. Flooding near Wolf Creek had made the road impassable. All drivers were advised to find alternate routes or shelter immediately. Marcus's jaw tightened. He looked at Tyler, who was still clutching his backpack, and forced a smile. Change of plans, bud. He took the next exit, a narrow 2-lane road that wound up into the foothills. He'd driven these back roads before on jobs. There were small towns scattered through the mountains, places with community centers or fire stations. Somewhere they could wait out the storm, but the higher they climbed, the worse it got. The rain became hail, pelting the truck like bullets. The wind pushed them sideways. Twice Marcus felt the tires slip on the wet pavement. Tree branches littered the road. He swerved around them, heart pounding, hands aching from gripping the wheel so hard. Then the visibility just died. The storm came down so thick and fast that Marcus couldn't see 10 feet ahead. He slowed to a crawl, leaning so close to the windshield his breath fogged the glass. Tyler hadn't said a word in 20 minutes. Marcus could hear his small, fast breaths. "It's okay," Marcus said, though he didn't believe it. "We're gonna be okay." Ahead, a shape emerged from the grey. A fallen tree, massive and old, stretched across both lanes. There was no way around it. Marcus hit the brakes. The truck skidded, fish-tailed, and stopped just feet from the trunk. He sat there, engine idling, rain hammering the roof, and felt the weight of it all pressed down. They were stuck. The road behind them was probably blocked by now too, and the storm wasn't letting up. Then, through the rain, he saw it. A gap in the trees on the left side of the road. Not a real road. More like a dirt path, overgrown and barely visible. But it was something. Marcus didn't think. He turned the wheel and nosed the truck onto the path. Branches scraped the sides. Mud sucked at the tires. But the truck pushed forward, headlights cutting through the dark forest like weak flashlights. The path twisted deeper into the woods, narrower with every turn. Marcus's chest tightened. If they got stuck out here, no one would find them. Not tonight. But just when he thought they'd have to stop, the trees opened up. A clearing. And in the center of that clearing, barely visible through the storm, stood a house. It was old. That much was clear even in the dark. 2 stories, stone and timber, with a peaked roof and windows like empty eyes. The paint had peeled away years ago. Vines crawled up the walls. Part of the porch had collapsed. But it was shelter, and right now, that was everything. Marcus killed the engine. For a moment, he just sat there, listening to the rain pound the roof. "Is that where we're staying?" Tyler asked, his voice small. Marcus looked at the house, then at his son. "Yeah, buddy, just for tonight." They ran through the rain, Marcus carrying the duffel bag and toolbox, Tyler clutching his backpack. The front door was locked, or maybe just swollen shut from years of moisture. Marcus set down his load and threw his shoulder against it. Nothing. He tried again. Nothing. "Around back," he said. They circled the house, feet sinking into mud, rain soaking through their clothes. The back had a small door, half rotted. Marcus kicked it once, twice, and it gave way with a wet crack. He pushed Tyler inside first, then followed, pulling the door shut behind them. The silence inside was immediate and strange. The storm still raged outside, but here, in the belly of this forgotten house, it sounded distant, muffled. Marcus fumbled for his phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam swept across a kitchen frozen in time, a table with 2 chairs, cabinets hanging open, a sink filled with leaves that had blown in through a broken window. Dust covered everything, thick as snow. "Stay close," Marcus said. They moved through the kitchen into a hallway. The floorboards creaked under their weight, groaning like the house was waking up. Marcus tested each step carefully. The last thing they needed was to fall through rotted wood. The hall opened into a living room. Furniture sat covered in sheets, ghostly shapes in the dark. A stone fireplace dominated one wall, blackened with old soot. Above it hung a picture frame, glass cracked, the photo inside too faded to see. Tyler pressed against Marcus's side. "It's scary. I know, but it's dry. That's what matters." They found a room off the living area that looked like it had been a study. Built-in bookshelves lined the walls, mostly empty. A desk sat beneath a window, its surface warped and stained, but the ceiling here looked intact. No leaks, no visible damage. Marcus set down the bags and laid out the sleeping bags he'd grabbed from the trailer. Tyler crawled into his without being asked, still wearing his jacket and shoes. Marcus knelt beside him and brushed the wet hair from his forehead. "You okay?" Tyler nodded, but his eyes were wide, scared. "We're safe here," Marcus said. "I promise." He didn't know if that was true, but sometimes promises were all you had. Marcus sat with his back against the wall, listening to the storm tear through the forest outside. Wind howled, branches snapped, rain drummed the roof like 1,000 fists. Tyler fell asleep eventually, exhausted, his small body curled tight in the sleeping bag. Marcus didn't sleep. He kept the flashlight on, sweeping it across the room every few minutes, checking for movement, for water, for anything that might threaten them. Hours passed. The storm raged on, and somewhere deep in the night, Marcus allowed himself to close his eyes, just for a moment. When he opened them again, grey light was seeping through the dusty windows. The storm had passed. The house was silent. Marcus sat up, every muscle stiff and aching. Tyler was still asleep, his breathing soft and steady. Marcus stood carefully and walked to the window. Outside, the forest was a battlefield. Trees down everywhere, branches scattered like bones, and blocking the overgrown driveway, a massive pine lay across the path, its roots torn from the earth. They weren't driving out of here. Not today. Marcus stepped into the hallway and made his way back to the kitchen. In the daylight, the house looked worse than it had in the dark. Water stains streaked the walls. The floor sagged in places, but as he moved through the rooms, he started noticing things that didn't fit. The walls were thick. Too thick for a house this old. In the living room, he tapped the wall with his knuckles. Solid. Like there was concrete behind the plaster. In the hallway, he found a door that wouldn't budge. Not locked, sealed. The frame had been built over, blending into the wall. He walked into what looked like a dining room. A chandelier hung from the ceiling, covered in cobwebs. Beneath it, a table sat with place settings still arranged. Plates, forks, knives. Like someone had been about to eat and just walked away. Marcus picked up one of the plates. Expensive, heavy, porcelain. Not the kind of thing you left behind. He heard footsteps behind him and turned. Tyler stood in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "Morning, bud. Is the storm over?" "Yeah, but we can't leave yet. Trees blocking the road." Tyler walked over and looked at the table. "Why is everything still here?" Marcus set the plate down. "I don't know." They ate breakfast from the canned food Marcus had packed. Cold ravioli straight from the can. Tyler didn't complain. They sat on the floor of the study, backs against the wall, and ate in silence. When they finished, Marcus stood and brushed off his jeans. "I need to look around," he said. "See if there's anything we can use. Tools maybe, or a landline." "Can I come?" Marcus hesitated. He didn't like the idea of Tyler wandering around this place alone. "Stay close, and don't touch anything." They explored the house together, moving from room to room. Upstairs, they found 3 bedrooms, beds still made, clothes still hanging in closets. In one room, Tyler found a box of old toys, wooden blocks, a tin robot. He held up the robot, his face bright. "Can I keep this?" Marcus looked at the toy, rusted and dented but still intact. "Yeah, I think that's okay." In the master bedroom, Marcus found a dresser with the drawers still full. He opened one. Folded shirts, yellowed with age. In the top drawer, a watch, leather band, expensive. He picked it up, turned it over, engraved on the back, "To Robert with love, 1978. Robert. Someone named Robert had lived here and left everything behind. Back downstairs, Marcus searched for a basement. Most houses this old had one. He found the door in the kitchen, half hidden behind a freestanding shelf. He moved the shelf aside and pulled the door open. Stone steps led down into darkness. Cold air rushed up, damp and stale. "Stay here," Marcus told Tyler. "But—" "Stay!" Marcus descended the steps slowly, phone light cutting through the black. The basement was small, unfinished, with a dirt floor and stone walls. Old paint cans lined one shelf. Rusted tools hung on hooks. Nothing useful. He was about to go back up when he noticed something. The far wall wasn't stone, it was wood. Paneling, out of place. He walked over and knocked on it. Hollow. Definitely hollow. He ran his fingers along the edges, searching for a seam, a hinge, anything. Then his hand found it, a small latch hidden in the corner. He flipped it. The panel swung open. Behind it was a narrow crawl space, and beyond that another door. This one metal, industrial, with a lock. Marcus stared at it, his heart starting to pound. What the hell was this? He crawled through the space and knelt in front of the metal door. The lock was old but heavy-duty. Combination, not key. 4 numbers. He tried a few random sequences. Nothing. He sat back, thinking. Then he remembered the watch. 1978. He tried it. 1978. The lock clicked, the door released. Marcus pulled it open. Cold air rushed out, but it wasn't damp like the basement. It was dry, controlled. He shined his light inside and his breath caught. Steps, concrete steps leading down. And at the bottom, something that looked like a vault. Marcus stood there, frozen, his mind racing. Someone had built this, hidden it, sealed it away. Why? "Dad," Tyler's voice echoed from upstairs. "Are you okay?" Marcus backed out of the crawl space, his hands shaking. He closed the panel and climbed the basement stairs. Tyler stood at the top, worry on his small face. "I'm fine," Marcus said, "just checking things out." But he wasn't fine. His mind was spinning. He looked down at his dirty hands, then at Tyler, then back toward the basement door. Something was down there, something hidden, and every instinct he had told him that opening that vault door would change everything. but he didn't know yet if that change would save them or destroy them. The rest of the morning passed in a strange haze. Marcus went through the motions, checking the windows, testing the structural integrity of the rooms they were using, trying to figure out how long they'd be trapped here. The fallen tree blocking their exit wasn't something he could move alone. He'd need a chainsaw, maybe help, and his truck wouldn't start. He'd tried 3 times. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. Water in the fuel line, maybe, or something worse. Tyler played with the tin robot in the study, making quiet sound effects as he walked it across the floor. Marcus watched him, his mind elsewhere. He couldn't stop thinking about that metal door, about the vault beneath their feet. Every few minutes, his eyes drifted toward the kitchen, toward the basement door. By noon, he couldn't take it anymore. He told Tyler he needed to check the basement again, make sure there wasn't water damage from the storm. Tyler barely looked up, lost in his imaginary world. Marcus descended the steps, moved the panel, and crawled through to the metal door. It was still unlocked, still open a crack from where he'd left it. He pulled it wide and stared down at those concrete steps leading into the dark. He descended slowly, his phone light bouncing off smooth concrete walls. The air grew colder with each step. At the bottom, he found himself in a room. Not a basement. A room. Climate-controlled, judging by the hum of machinery he could hear in the walls. The space was maybe 20 feet by 20 feet, and it was filled. Filing cabinets lined one wall. On another, a series of built-in safes, the kind you'd see in a bank. Boxes were stacked neatly on industrial shelving. Everything was organized, labeled, preserved. Marcus walked forward slowly, his breath coming faster. He opened the first filing cabinet. Inside were folders, dozens of them. He pulled one out. Stock certificates, old ones, companies he'd never heard of, dates going back to the 1970s. He opened a box on the shelf. Inside, wrapped in protective plastic, were coins, gold coins. He picked one up. It was heavy, real. His hands started shaking. Marcus moved to the safes. They weren't locked. Or rather, they had combination locks, but someone had left them open. He pulled open the first one. Stacks of cash, $100 bills, banded and organized. He grabbed one stack, $10,000. The safe had at least 50 stacks. He backed away, his heart hammering. This wasn't possible. This wasn't real. But it was. His phone light swept across the room, catching something else. Paintings. 3 of them, leaning against the far wall, covered in protective cloth. He walked over and carefully pulled the cloth back. The first painting took his breath away. He didn't know art, didn't know artists, but he knew what something expensive looked like. The colors were rich, deep, the brushstrokes deliberate. In the corner, a signature. He couldn't read it in the dim light, but it looked old, important. Marcus stumbled back and sank to the floor, his legs giving out. He sat there, surrounded by wealth he couldn't begin to calculate, in a room that shouldn't exist, beneath a house that had been abandoned for decades. None of this made sense. None of it. Then he saw it. A desk in the corner, small and neat. On top, a leather-bound ledger. Marcus crawled over to it and opened the cover. Handwriting, neat, precise, page after page of inventory. Descriptions, dates, estimated values. He flipped through, his eyes struggling to take it in. Rare stamps, 200,000. 1963 Ferrari, 1.2 million. Original Picasso sketch, 3.5 million. The numbers climbed, page after page. Marcus's vision blurred. He flipped to the last page. At the bottom, written in that same careful hand, a summary. Total collection value, approximately $245 million. Marcus's phone slipped from his hand and clattered on the concrete floor. The light flickered but held. He stared at those words until they stopped making sense. 245 million. The number was so large it didn't feel real. It was abstract, impossible. The kind of money that existed only in news stories about lottery winners and tech billionaires. And it was sitting beneath a rotting house in the middle of nowhere, His first thought was for Tyler. College, a real home, security, never worrying again. His second thought was darker. This kind of money brought trouble, the kind that didn't knock, the kind that came in the middle of the night and left bodies behind. He grabbed the ledger and climbed back up the stairs, sealing the metal door behind him. Back in the kitchen, daylight felt harsh after the darkness below. Tyler was still in the study, still playing. Marcus watched him for a long moment, this small boy who trusted him completely, who believed his father could fix anything. Marcus couldn't breathe. He walked outside onto the collapsed porch and gulped air. The forest around the house was silent now, recovering from the storm. Water dripped from leaves. Birds called tentatively. Everything looked normal, but nothing was normal. Nothing would ever be normal again, because beneath this house, in a vault that someone had built and hidden and filled with impossible wealth, Marcus had found something that could either save his son's life or end it. And he had no idea what to do next. Marcus didn't go back inside right away. He stood on that sagging porch, hands gripping the railing, staring out at the broken forest. His mind wouldn't stop spinning. $245 million. The number kept repeating in his head like a glitch. He'd never even seen $1 million. Couldn't picture it. And now there was 245 of them sitting in a concrete room beneath his feet. He thought about the trailer park. About Gil showing up every month with that clipboard and that look that said Marcus was one missed payment away from being thrown out. He thought about Tyler's shoes with the sole coming loose, the ones Marcus had been gluing back together for weeks because he couldn't afford new ones. He thought about the nights he'd gone to bed hungry so Tyler could have seconds. About the jobs he'd taken that paid under the table because he was too desperate to negotiate. About the weight of being broke, really broke, where every single day was just trying to survive until the next one. And now this thing that shouldn't exist, this vault full of wealth that could erase every struggle, every fear, every sleepless night worrying about how to keep his son fed and warm. It felt like a hallucination. Like any second he'd wake up in the trailer with the roof leaking and the storm still raging, but when he looked down at his hands, they were shaking. Real. This was real. He heard Tyler's voice from inside, calling his name. Marcus took a breath and walked back into the house. Tyler stood in the hallway, holding the tin robot, his face worried. "You okay, Dad? You look weird." Marcus forced a smile. "Just thinking. Storm did a lot of damage out there. When can we leave?" "Not yet. Road's still blocked, but we're okay here. We've got food. We're dry." Tyler nodded, accepting this the way he accepted everything. Marcus felt a sharp pain in his chest. This kid trusted him completely, believed his father would keep him safe no matter what. And now Marcus was standing on top of a secret that could destroy that safety forever. They spent the afternoon trying to make the house more comfortable. Marcus found blankets in an upstairs closet, musty but intact. He shook them out and laid them over the furniture in the study. Tyler organized their supplies, lining up the canned food like little soldiers. He was good at that, finding order in chaos. Marcus figured the kid had to be, given the life they'd lived. By late afternoon, Marcus couldn't stop himself. While Tyler was upstairs exploring the bedrooms, Marcus went back down to the vault. This time he brought a better flashlight, one from his toolbox. The beam was stronger, whiter. It lit up the room like daylight. He went through the filing cabinets more carefully. Folders full of documents, property deeds, stock certificates, bond papers. Some of it he understood. Most of it he didn't. But every page had dates and numbers and signatures, proof that this was real, that someone had accumulated all of this legally, carefully, over decades. He opened more boxes, rare coins from countries that didn't exist anymore, stamps in protective sleeves, some so old the colors had faded to ghosts. He found jewelry too, watches, rings, necklaces, all carefully wrapped and labeled. Estimated value, $80,000. Estimated value, $150,000. The numbers climbed until they stopped meaning anything. Marcus moved to the paintings again. There were 5 of them, not 3. He'd missed 2 in the dark. He carefully uncovered each one. Even with his limited knowledge, he could tell they were important. The kind of art you saw in museums behind velvet ropes. The kind people paid millions for at auctions. He found another safe he'd missed, smaller, tucked into the corner. This one was locked. The combination dial was brass, worn smooth from use. Marcus tried a few numbers randomly. Nothing. He'd come back to that. Then he saw the letter. It was in an envelope, sealed, sitting on the desk beside the ledger. The envelope was yellowed but intact. On the front, written in that same careful hand, "To whoever finds this." Marcus's hands trembled as he picked it up. He turned it over. The seal was still intact, wax, old-fashioned. He carefully broke it and pulled out the letter. The paper was thick, expensive, the handwriting neat. He began to read. "If you're reading this, then I'm gone. Probably dead. Probably alone. That's fine. I made my peace with that years ago. My name is Robert James Holloway. I was born in 1938 in Salem, Oregon. Made my fortune in technology in the 70s. Computers. Nobody thought they'd amount to anything back then. I knew better. I built a company, sold it in 1976 for $18 million. Then I invested, got lucky, got smart. By 1980, I was worth close to $300 million. But money changes people, changes how they look at you. Everyone wanted something. Partners wanted more. Family wanted their share. The government wanted taxes. I got paranoid. Maybe rightfully. Maybe not. I built this place in 1978, bought the land under a shell company, built the house myself mostly. The vault, I hired specialists, paid them in cash, made them sign agreements. Probably illegal, didn't care. I moved everything here, everything that mattered. Planned to live off-grid, away from everyone. Just me and my collection. My wife thought I was crazy. My daughter stopped calling. In 1982, my wife Helen died. Car accident. Black ice on Highway 26. My daughter Sarah died with her. She was 16. After that, I didn't care anymore. Didn't care about the money. Didn't care about anything. I stayed here for a while. Then I couldn't. The house had too many ghosts. I left in 1983, drove to Portland, checked into a hospital under a fake name. Pancreatic cancer. I knew I was dying. Didn't want anyone to find me. Didn't want the circus. If you're reading this, then you found the vault. It's yours, all of it. I don't care what you do with it. Sell it, keep it, burn it. Doesn't matter. Money didn't save the people I loved. Maybe it'll mean something to you. The combination to the small safe is Sarah's birthday. March 14th, 1966. There's one more thing in there. Something I couldn't let go of. Good luck. You'll need it. Robert James Holloway. Marcus read the letter 3 times. His eyes burned. His throat was tight. He looked around the vault, at all this wealth that had meant nothing in the end. A man had lost his family and built a tomb for his fortune and his grief. He folded the letter carefully and put it back in the envelope. Then he turned to the small safe. March 14th, 1966. He spun the dial. 3:14:66. The lock clicked. The door swung open. Inside was a photograph. Just one. A family. A man in his 40s, broad-shouldered, with kind eyes. A woman beside him, blonde, laughing. A teenage girl between them, her arms around both. They were standing in front of this house back when it was new, when the paint was fresh and the porch was whole. They looked happy. Marcus stared at that photograph for a long time. Then he carefully closed the safe and climbed back upstairs. He found Tyler in the study, drawing with a pencil he'd found in the desk. The paper was old, yellowed, but Tyler didn't care. He was sketching the house, his version of it, making it better, adding a porch that didn't sag, windows that weren't broken, a tree with a swing. "That's nice, Bud," Marcus said softly. Tyler looked up and smiled. That smile broke Marcus's heart, because now he knew. He knew that Robert Holloway had once looked at his daughter the same way, had probably smiled the same way, and it hadn't been enough. Money hadn't been enough. Nothing had been enough to protect the people he loved. Marcus sat down beside Tyler and put his arm around him. They sat like that as the light faded outside, as the forest grew dark and the house settled into silence. And Marcus made a decision. He'd document everything, take photos, make a record. Then he'd figure out what to do, who to call, how to handle this legally, because he wouldn't let this fortune destroy them the way it had destroyed Robert Holloway. That night, after Tyler fell asleep, Marcus went back to the vault with his phone. He photographed every page of the ledger, every document in the filing cabinets, every painting, every box. He worked methodically, the way he approached any job, step by step, thorough. When he was done, his phone was full. Hundreds of photos, proof of everything. He climbed back upstairs as the house groaned around him. The wind had picked up again, not storm level, but enough to make the old structure creak and whisper. Marcus checked the windows, checked the doors, made sure they were as secure as they could be. Then he lay down on the floor beside Tyler's sleeping bag and stared at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible. His mind raced through scenarios, legal battles, taxes, people coming out of the woodwork claiming the fortune was theirs, the government seizing everything, criminals hearing about it and coming for them. He thought about running, taking Tyler and disappearing, selling one painting, just one, and living off that money for the rest of their lives. But that was how people got caught. That was how things went wrong. No, he'd do this right. Even if it took years, even if it meant lawyers and courts and publicity. He'd protect Tyler. That was all that mattered. Marcus must have dozed off eventually, because he woke to Tyler shaking his shoulder. Dad, wake up! Marcus sat up fast, instantly alert. What's wrong? Tyler's face was pale. I heard something. Outside. Marcus listened. At first, just the wind, then he heard it, an engine, distant but getting closer, a vehicle coming up the overgrown driveway. His heart kicked into overdrive. He stood and moved to the window, pulling Tyler behind him. Through the dirty glass, he saw headlights cutting through the trees. A truck, dark color, lifted suspension. It stopped near where Marcus's truck sat, blocked by the fallen tree. Two men got out. They wore dark jackets, work boots. One carried a flashlight. The other had something on his belt. Radio, maybe, or a weapon. Stay here, Marcus whispered to Tyler. Hide in the closet. Don't come out until I say. Dad, now. Tyler ran to the closet and squeezed inside, pulling the door almost shut. Marcus moved to the front of the house, his pulse hammering. Through a gap in the boards covering one window, he watched the men approach. They moved like they knew where they were going, confident, purposeful. One of them knocked on the door, hard, 3 sharp raps. Marcus took a breath and opened it. The two men stood on the broken porch, flashlight beams pointed at the ground. They were both in their 30s, maybe, clean-cut, professional. The taller one smiled. Hey there, sorry to bother you. We're with the Forest Service, doing welfare checks after the storm. Saw your truck down there, wanted to make sure everyone's okay. Marcus kept his expression neutral. We're fine. Took shelter here when the road got blocked. Smart move. Storm was brutal. The man glanced past Marcus into the house. Just you? Me and my son. How old's your boy? 7. The second man, shorter and stockier, spoke up. You folks got enough supplies? We can radio for help if you need anything. We're okay for now, waiting for the road to clear. The tall one nodded. Might be a few days. Tree crews are backed up all over the county. He paused. This is private property, you know. Old Holloway place. What happens next will turn this night upside down, reveal a truth nobody expected, and remind us why sometimes the quietest voices carry the most power. Stay tuned to see what happens next. If you're enjoying the story, please like, share, and subscribe for more. Marcus's stomach tightened. Didn't know anyone owned it. Door was open. We just needed shelter. Oh, no judgment. Emergency's an emergency. The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Just interesting is all. Place has been abandoned since the 80s. Folks around here say it's cursed or haunted. Nobody comes up here. We didn't have much choice. Course not. The man looked at the house again, his gaze lingering too long on the windows. You explore much? Old places like this. Sometimes people left stuff behind. Antiques. Could be valuable. Marcus shrugged. Mostly just dust and rot. We're staying in one room, keeping warm. The shorter man tilted his head. You got a last name, friend? Reed, Marcus Reed. Where you from, Marcus? Timber Ridge, trailer park off 99. Long way from home. Wasn't planning on this. The tall man shifted his weight. His hand moved to his belt. Marcus tensed, but the man just adjusted his radio. Well, like I said, we're checking on folks. You need anything, channel 16 on the radio. Someone'll respond. Appreciate it. The two men didn't move right away. They stood there, eyes scanning the house, the yard, Marcus's truck. Then the tall one smiled again. You take care now. Stay safe. They walked back to their truck. Marcus watched through the gap in the boards as they climbed in. But they didn't leave. They sat there, headlights off, talking. One of them pulled out a phone. The other pointed toward the house. Marcus backed away from the window, his chest tight. Those weren't forest rangers. He didn't know what they were, but his gut screamed danger. Rangers had patches, badges, radios with official channels. These guys had nothing. No identification, no uniforms, just questions that probed too deep and eyes that looked for things they shouldn't be looking for. The truck finally started. The headlights came on. They backed down the driveway slowly, branches scraping the sides. Marcus waited until the sound of the engine faded completely before he moved. Tyler, come out. Tyler emerged from the closet, his face tight with fear. Who were they? I don't know. They didn't look like rangers. I know. Are they coming back? Marcus knelt down and held Tyler's shoulders. I don't know, but we're going to be ready if they do. He spent the next hour securing the house. He dragged furniture in front of the doors, found boards and nailed them over the broken windows. It wasn't much, but it might slow someone down, might give them time to hide or run. Then he went back to the vault. He worked fast, his phone camera clicking. He photographed every inch of that room, every detail. If something happened to him, if those men came back and things went wrong, he needed proof, evidence. Something to show Tyler was entitled to this, that it wasn't stolen, that Robert Holloway had left it for whoever found it. When he climbed back upstairs, dawn was breaking. Grey light filtered through the cracks in the boards. Tyler was awake, sitting in his sleeping bag, the tin robot clutched in his hands. Did you sleep? Marcus asked. Tyler shook his head. Marcus sat beside him. Me neither. What are we going to do? Wait, see if the road clears. Then we get out of here and call the police. The real police. What about the men? They're gone. And if they come back, we'll hear them. But Marcus didn't believe that. Those men knew something. They'd been watching this house, maybe for years, waiting for someone to find what was hidden here. And now Marcus and Tyler had walked right into something they didn't understand. He pulled out his phone. The battery was at 42%. He had signal, weak, but there. He opened the browser and started searching. Holloway Property, Oregon. Robert James Holloway death. Holloway estate abandoned. It took time. His fingers moved clumsily over the tiny screen, but eventually he found something. A news article from 1990. Small town paper. Digitized archives. Mystery millionaire dies in Portland. Robert James Holloway, tech pioneer and recluse, dead at 52. No heirs. Estate status unknown. Marcus clicked through to another article. This one from 1997. Holloway Estate declared abandoned. Jackson County seizes property for unpaid taxes, land and structures to be auctioned. Then another. 2003. Holloway land still in legal limbo. Title disputes prevent sale. Property remains sealed. And a final one. 2018. Holloway property declared legally abandoned. State ownership established. No plans for development. Marcus sat back, his mind racing. Robert Holloway had died in 1990, 35 years after building this place. The estate had been in legal limbo for decades. No one had properly searched it. No one had found the vault. The state owned the land, but they didn't know what was on it, which meant, technically, this fortune didn't belong to anyone. It was abandoned property, lost, forgotten. And now 2 men who definitely weren't forest rangers knew someone was here, knew someone might have found something, and they'd be back. Marcus looked at Tyler, small and scared in the dim light of the study, and he made another decision. He'd call the police. Today. As soon as he could get through, he'd tell them everything, show them everything, let the lawyers and courts figure it out. Because keeping this secret would get them killed. Those men would come back. They'd bring others. And Marcus couldn't protect Tyler alone in this falling-apart house in the middle of nowhere. But first, they had to survive long enough to make that call. Marcus spent the morning trying to start the truck. He checked every connection, every wire, every possible issue. The engine turned over but wouldn't catch. Fuel pump, maybe. Or water damage from driving through the storm. Without proper tools, he couldn't fix it. They were stuck. He used his phone sparingly, conserving battery. He tried calling 911 twice. The first time, the call dropped immediately. The second time, he got through to a dispatcher, but the connection was so bad she couldn't hear him. Static. Broken words. Then nothing. By noon, his battery was down to 28%. He turned the phone off to save it. Tyler was getting restless, scared. He'd stopped playing with the robot, stopped drawing. He just sat against the wall, knees pulled up, watching Marcus with wide eyes. "Hey," Marcus said softly. "You hungry?" Tyler shook his head. "You need to eat, bud." "I'm not hungry." Marcus opened a can of soup and heated it over a small fire he'd built in the stone fireplace. The smoke rose through the chimney, and he prayed it wouldn't attract attention. They ate in silence, the soup barely warm, but it was something. Afterward, Marcus sat beside Tyler and put his arm around him. "I need you to listen to me. Can you do that?" Tyler nodded. "If those men come back, I need you to hide. There's a closet upstairs in the blue bedroom. It's got a false panel in the back. I found it this morning. You can hide behind it. There's space." "What about you?" "I'll be fine, but you need to hide and stay hidden until I say it's safe. Promise me." "I promise." "Good boy." They sat together as the afternoon dragged on. The house creaked and groaned around them. Every sound made Marcus tense, every gust of wind, every branch scraping against the siding. But no one came. By evening, Marcus allowed himself to hope. Maybe the men had been exactly what they said. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe they'd moved on to check other properties, other stranded people. But then he heard it. Engines, plural, more than one vehicle. He moved to the window. Through the gap in the boards he saw headlights. 3 trucks this time. They stopped at the fallen tree. Doors opened, figures emerged, 6 of them, maybe more. Marcus's blood turned to ice. "Tyler, go, now." Tyler ran. Marcus heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard the bedroom door open, then silence. The men approached the house. They didn't knock this time. The tall one from before called out, "Marcus Reed, we need to talk." Marcus didn't answer. He stood behind the barricaded door, his heart hammering so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. "We know you're in there. We know what you found. We just want to talk." Still, Marcus said nothing. We can help you, protect you. This is bigger than you think. There are people who've been watching this place for years. Bad people. You don't want them finding out what's down there." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. They knew. They knew about the vault. "Or," the voice continued, harder now, "we can come in, search the place. You're trespassing on state land. We've got every right." Marcus moved to the back door. He unlocked it quietly, slipped outside into the cold evening air. He circled around the house, staying low, moving through the shadows. From the tree line, he watched the men. They were arguing. One wanted to force entry, another said it was too risky. They didn't know if Marcus was armed, didn't know what he'd do. Marcus pulled out his phone, 22% battery. He turned it on, searched for signal, found one bar. He dialed 911. This time it connected. 911, what's your emergency? My name is Marcus Reed. I'm trapped at an abandoned property off Route 22. There are armed men surrounding the house. My son is inside. I need help. Sir, can you repeat your location? Holloway property, Old Forest Road, off Route 22 near the Cascade Foothills. Are you injured? Not yet, but these men, they're not police. They're threatening us. Stay on the line, sir. I'm dispatching units now. Marcus stayed in the shadows, phone pressed to his ear, watching the house, watching the men, praying Tyler stayed hidden, praying the police would get there in time, because he'd found $245 million in a vault beneath a dead man's house, and now that secret was going to either save his life or end it. The dispatcher's voice crackled through the phone. Sir, units are approximately 20 minutes out. Can you stay on the line? Yes, Marcus whispered, but I need to get back to my son. Is he safe where he is? I think so. He's hidden. Stay where you are. Don't engage with these men. Help is coming. But 20 minutes felt like forever. Marcus watched from the tree line as the men gathered near the front porch. They were talking, gesturing. One pulled out a phone, another walked around the side of the house, checking windows. Marcus's stomach dropped. If they found Tyler before the police arrived, he couldn't wait. He had to get back inside. He moved quietly through the forest, circling wide, approaching the back door. The wood was old, and it creaked when he pushed it open. He froze, listened. The men were still out front. He slipped inside and moved through the dark kitchen, then up the stairs. His boots found every squeaky board. Each sound made him wince. The blue bedroom door was closed. He opened it slowly. Tyler? No answer. Buddy, it's me, it's Dad. A scraping sound. The closet door opened a crack. Tyler's face appeared, pale and terrified. Come here! Tyler ran to him. Marcus held him tight, feeling the small body trembling. You're okay. You did good. Police are coming. Those men are still here. I know, but we just have to wait, just a little longer. Outside, voices rose, an argument, then the sound of breaking glass. They were forcing their way in. Marcus pulled Tyler into the closet and closed the door. He found the false panel he'd discovered that morning and slid it aside. Behind it was a narrow space, barely big enough for Tyler. He lifted his son and set him inside. Stay here. Don't make a sound, no matter what you hear. Dad, I love you. Remember that. He slid the panel back into place. Then he stepped out of the closet and closed the door. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, multiple people. Marcus moved to the doorway and waited. The tall man from before appeared at the top of the stairs. He saw Marcus and stopped. 3 more men came up behind him. They weren't pretending anymore. No friendly smiles, no fake ranger routine. One of them had a crowbar, another carried a flashlight that looked more like a weapon. Where's the kid? The tall man asked. Safe. We don't want trouble, Marcus. We just want what's down there. I don't know what you're talking about. The man smiled without humor. Yeah, you do. We've been watching this place for 15 years, ever since we found out what Holloway hid here, but we could never get in. The vault's too secure, needs the combination, codes we don't have. He took a step closer. But you got in somehow. So you're gonna show us, or things get ugly. Police are on the way, Marcus said. I called them. They'll be here any minute. The man's jaw tightened. He pulled out a radio. Check the perimeter. Anyone coming? Static. Then a voice. Negative. Road's still blocked. Nothing moving. The tall man looked at Marcus. You're bluffing. Try me. For a long moment they stared at each other. Then the man nodded to the others. Search the house. Find the kid. Find the vault entrance. They spread out. Marcus heard them tearing through rooms, smashing furniture, ripping up floorboards, his fists clenched. Every instinct screamed to fight. But he was outnumbered, outmatched. All he could do was buy time. What's your name? Marcus asked the tall man. Doesn't matter. How'd you know about the vault? The man shrugged. Holloway wasn't as careful as he thought. He hired contractors, paid them to keep quiet. Most did. One didn't. Told his brother about a job he did in the 80s. Weird job. Building something underground. Concrete, steel, climate control. Said the old man paid him $50,000 in cash and made him sign papers. And you heard about it? Eventually. Took years to track down the property. By then, Holloway was dead. Estate was a mess. We couldn't touch it without drawing attention. So we waited, watched. Figured someday someone would buy the land, develop it, find the vault. Then we'd move in. He smiled. Didn't expect a broke handyman and his kid to stumble in during a storm. Lucky us. Yeah, lucky you. Downstairs a crash. Someone yelled, Found it! Basement's got a hidden panel. The tall man's eyes lit up. Show me. He grabbed Marcus's arm and shoved him toward the stairs. They went down to the basement. Two men stood by the open panel, flashlights pointed at the metal door beyond. Open it, the tall man said. I don't know the combination. Yes, you do. You got in once. I got lucky. The man pulled something from his belt. A knife. Not big, but sharp. He held it where Marcus could see. I'm gonna ask one more time. Then I start hurting you. And if that doesn't work, I'll go find your boy. See if he's more cooperative. Marcus's heart hammered. He thought about Tyler hidden behind that panel. Thought about the journal in the vault. Robert Holloway's words. Good luck. You'll need it. Then he heard it. Sirens. Distant, but getting closer. The tall man heard it too. His face changed. Damn it! The other men looked at each other, panic spreading. The tall man grabbed Marcus by the shirt. You called them! Told you I did. How? Phone shouldn't work out here. Got lucky again? The sirens grew louder. Red and blue lights flickered through the trees. The men ran. Marcus heard them scrambling up the stairs, out the back, crashing through the forest. Engines started. Trucks roared to life. By the time Marcus climbed out of the basement, they were gone. He ran upstairs to the blue bedroom. Tyler, it's okay, they're gone. He opened the closet and slid the panel aside. Tyler sat curled in the small space, tears streaming down his face, but silent. He'd stayed quiet the whole time. Marcus pulled him out and held him so tight he thought his ribs might crack. You're safe. It's over. Car doors slammed outside, voices, official ones. Marcus carried Tyler downstairs and opened the front door. 3 sheriff's vehicles sat in the clearing, lights flashing. Deputies stood with weapons drawn, assessing the scene. Marcus Reed, one of them called. That's me. You called 911? Yes. There were 6 men, maybe more. They broke in, threatened us. They just left, headed north through the forest. Anyone injured? No, but they were after something. Something in this house. The lead deputy, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, stepped onto the porch. I'm Deputy Mitchell. You want to tell me what's going on? Marcus took a breath. I need to show you something. He led them inside, down to the basement, through the panel, to the metal door. Deputy Mitchell's expression changed when she saw it. What is this? A vault, built in the 70s by the man who owned this house, Robert Holloway. He died in 1990. Nobody knew this was here. And you found it. We took shelter during the storm, discovered it by accident. What's inside? Marcus looked at Tyler, then back at the deputy. Everything. Money, art, coins, jewelry, documents, a fortune. How much of a fortune? According to the ledger, around $245 million. The deputy stared at him. You're serious? Completely. She turned to the other deputies. Call this in, get the state police, and get a forensic team out here, now. Within an hour, the clearing was filled with vehicles. State police, forest service, a crime scene unit. The house was declared a secured site. Marcus and Tyler were moved to a patrol car where they sat wrapped in emergency blankets, drinking terrible coffee from a thermos. Deputy Mitchell came back with a notebook. I need your full statement. Everything from when you arrived, Marcus told her. The storm, the blocked road, finding the house, discovering the vault, the letter from Holloway, the men who came pretending to be rangers. All of it. She wrote quickly, her pen scratching across page after page. These men who threatened you, you get a good look at them? Yes, especially the tall one. He did most of the talking. Think you could identify him? Absolutely. Good. We'll get a sketch artist. She paused. Mr. Reed, what you found in that vault, it's going to complicate things. Legally, this property belongs to the state, but Holloway's estate was never properly settled. No heirs, no will. It's a mess. I just want to make sure my son is safe, Marcus said. That's all. We'll put you both in protective custody until we sort this out. Those men, they're not going to give up. If they've been watching this place for 15 years, they're serious, organized, probably connected to organized crime. What about the vault? It gets sealed, documented, catalogued. Then the lawyers figure out who it belongs to. She looked at him carefully. You understand you might not see a penny of this, right? Even though you found it. State might claim it all. I understand. But you did the right thing. Calling us, not trying to take it and run. That counts for something. A technician came over with a camera, ready to document the scene. Deputy Mitchell nodded. Mr. Reed, we're going to need you to show us exactly what's down there. Can you do that? Marcus looked at Tyler. Can someone stay with my son? I'll stay, a younger deputy said. He knelt down to Tyler's level. Hey, buddy, you like video games? Tyler nodded shyly. Me too. Want to see what games I got on my phone? Marcus watched them for a moment, then followed Deputy Mitchell and the technician back into the house. They descended into the vault. The camera flashed continuously as the technician photographed everything. The filing cabinets, the safes, the paintings, the ledger, the letter from Holloway. Deputy Mitchell picked up the letter and read it slowly. When she finished, her expression had softened. Poor guy. Lost everything that mattered. Yeah, Marcus said quietly. You read his journal. There's a journal. She pointed to the small safe, still open from when Marcus had found the photograph. In there, leather-bound, thick. Marcus pulled it out. The cover was worn but well-maintained. He opened to a random page. The handwriting was the same as the letter, neat, controlled, but the words were darker. January 4th, 1983. Another year without them. I go to the cemetery every Sunday, talk to them like they can hear me. Helen's headstone is starting to weather. Sarah's too. I should have them cleaned. But what's the point? Nobody visits but me. Nobody remembers them but me. The money means nothing. I'd give every cent to have them back, to undo that night. Black ice. Such a stupid thing. Such a random thing. They left to get ice cream. Sarah wanted mint chip. They never came home. I built this place to protect us, to keep us safe from the world. But I couldn't protect them from chance, from fate, from a patch of ice on a dark road. Marcus closed the journal. His throat was tight. He looked at Deputy Mitchell. Can I take this, just to read? Once we document it, maybe. But it's evidence right now. They spent 3 more hours in the vault, cataloging, photographing. The technician worked methodically, his camera clicking like a heartbeat. When they finally emerged, dawn was breaking. Marcus hadn't slept in over 30 hours. He felt hollow, exhausted, but wired. Tyler had fallen asleep in the patrol car, curled up on the back seat. The young deputy sat outside, keeping watch. Deputy Mitchell approached Marcus. "We're moving you both to a safe location. There's a motel in Grants Pass. We've got a room secured. 2 officers will stay with you until we sort this out." "For how long?" "However long it takes." "What about my truck, my tools?" "We'll have it towed, get it fixed. Everything you left in the house, we'll secure it." "And the vault?" "Sealed, guarded. No one gets in without authorization." Marcus nodded. He felt numb. "What happens next?" "State police take over the investigation. They'll track down the men who threatened you, document everything in the vault, contact the Attorney General's office, probably the IRS. This is going to be big, Mr. Reed. National news big. You need to prepare yourself for that." "I just wanted to keep my son safe from a storm." She smiled sadly. "I know. But you found something that's going to change your life. For better or worse, I don't know yet. But changed." They drove to Grants Pass as the sun rose over the Cascade Mountains. Tyler slept the whole way, his head on Marcus's lap. 2 deputies followed in a second vehicle. The motel was a Best Western off Interstate 5, nothing fancy, but it had working heat and soft beds and felt like a palace after 2 nights in that cold house. Marcus carried Tyler inside. The room had 2 queen beds. He laid Tyler down on one and covered him with blankets. The boy didn't stir. Marcus sat on the other bed and stared at the wall. A deputy knocked softly. "You need anything? Food? Coffee?" "Coffee, black, as strong as you got." "Coming up." Marcus pulled out his phone. 28 missed calls. Gil from the trailer park. People he'd done jobs for. Numbers he didn't recognize. He didn't return any of them. He opened his contacts and scrolled to a name he hadn't called in years. Derek Phillips. They'd gone to high school together. Derek had been the smart kid, the one who got scholarships, who went to law school. Marcus had heard he was practicing in Salem now, family law mostly, but he'd know about this kind of thing, or know someone who did. Marcus hit call. It rang 4 times, then a sleepy voice answered. "Hello?" "Derek, it's Marcus Reed, from high school." "Marcus? Jesus, what time is it?" "Early. I'm sorry, but I need help." Derek was quiet for a moment, then more alert. "What kind of help?" "Legal help. I found something valuable, and I don't know what to do." "What did you find?" "I can't really explain over the phone, but it's big, millions big, and there are people who want it, dangerous people." "Where are you?" "Grants Pass, in protective custody." "Protective custody? Marcus, what the hell did you get into?" "I'll explain everything. Can you come?" Derek sighed. "Yeah, give me 3 hours. Text me the address." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. If this is as big as you're saying, you're gonna need more than a small-town lawyer." "Then help me find the right one." "I will. Sit tight." Marcus ended the call and sent the address. Then he lay back on the bed and closed his eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. His mind kept spinning. Holloway's letter, the journal, the photograph of a happy family that was gone, the vault filled with wealth that meant nothing when you had no one to share it with. He thought about Tyler, about the life they'd been living, hand to mouth, week to week, always scared, always struggling. This fortune, even a fraction of it, could change everything, could give Tyler opportunities Marcus never had, education, stability, a future that wasn't defined by poverty, but it could also destroy them. The men who came to the house proved that. People would do terrible things for this kind of money. And now, Marcus and Tyler were at the center of it all. Derek arrived just after 10 in the morning. He was heavier than Marcus remembered, thinning hair, expensive suit, but his handshake was still firm and his eyes were sharp. "You look terrible," Derek said. "Haven't slept. Coffee?" "About 6 cups deep already." They sat in the motel room while Tyler still slept. Marcus told Derek everything: the storm, the house, the vault, the ledger, Holloway's letter, the men who threatened them, the police, all of it. Derek listened without interrupting, his expression growing more serious with every detail. When Marcus finished, Derek sat back and whistled low. 245 million. Give or take. And these guys who threatened you, they say they've been watching for 15 years. That's what the tall one said. Which means there's a criminal organization involved, people who know about this, who've been planning. Derek shook his head. "Marcus, you stumbled into something massive." "I know." "Legally, here's the situation. The property belongs to the state, has since the estate was settled or failed to settle in the 90s. Holloway died intestate, no will, no heirs. Normally, everything would escheat to the state, meaning I get nothing. Not necessarily. There's something called treasure trove law. If you find abandoned property, especially valuable property, there are provisions for finder's fees, but it varies by state. Oregon's laws are complicated. What are we talking about? 10%? 20%? Could be anywhere from nothing to 50%, depending on how it's classified. But with this much money involved, it's going to court. Probably multiple courts. Could take years. Years? At minimum. The state will fight for it. Federal government might get involved if there are tax issues, and if Holloway had any distant relatives, they could come out of the woodwork claiming inheritance rights. Marcus felt his chest tighten. "So I found a fortune and might never see any of it." "Possibly. But here's the thing." Derek leaned forward. "You did everything right. You called the police. You documented it. You didn't try to take anything or hide anything. That works in your favor. Courts like honest finders. I didn't do it to be honest. I did it to keep Tyler safe." "Even better. You're a struggling single dad who stumbled onto this by accident and immediately reported it. That's a good story. Judges are human. They respond to stories. So what do we do? First, we get you a real attorney, someone who specializes in property law, estate law, someone with experience in high-stakes cases. I'll make some calls." "I can't afford that." "You will. Once this goes public, you'll have lawyers lining up to take your case on contingency. They'll work for a percentage of whatever you win." "If I win anything." "You will. Maybe not the full amount, but something. I'd bet on it." Derek stood and pulled out his phone. "Let me make some calls. Meanwhile, you rest. Take care of your boy, and don't talk to anyone. Not reporters, not lawyers who show up uninvited, not anyone. Everything goes through me until we get proper representation." "Okay." Derek paused at the door. "Marcus, this is going to get crazy. Media, treasure hunters, people claiming they knew Holloway, people saying you stole something or lied about something. It's going to test you. I've been tested before. Not like this." After Derek left, Marcus sat in the chair by the window and watched the parking lot. Normal people doing normal things. Getting ice, loading luggage, living regular lives. He envied them. 2 days ago, he'd been one of them, broke and scared, but anonymous. Now he was something else, something he didn't have a name for yet. Tyler stirred, his eyes opened slowly. "Dad?" "Right here, bud." "Where are we?" "A motel. We're safe." Tyler sat up and looked around. "Is it over?" Marcus wanted to say yes, wanted to tell his son that everything was fine now, that they could go home and forget this ever happened. But he'd never lied to Tyler. Wouldn't start now. "No," he said gently. "It's just beginning." The first news story broke 3 days later. Local man discovers hidden fortune in abandoned Oregon home. By the end of the week, it was national. CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. Every major outlet picked it up. The details were too good to ignore. A broke single dad, a storm, a crumbling house, a vault filled with millions, and dangerous men who'd come looking for it. Marcus watched the coverage from the motel room, his stomach churning. They'd used his name, shown his picture, an old photo someone had pulled from social media. They'd tracked down people he'd worked for, neighbors from the trailer park, even his high school yearbook photo. Everyone had an opinion. "He's a hero," one neighbor said on camera. "Finally caught a break." "He's lying," another claimed. "Probably planted it there himself." Gil from the trailer park gave an interview standing in front of Marcus's empty trailer space. "Owed me 3 months' rent. Now he's gonna be rich. That don't seem right." Tyler watched too, confused. "Why are they talking about us?" "Because people are interested in what we found." "But it's not ours." "I know, buddy." "Then why do they care?" Marcus had no good answer for that. Derek came back with a lawyer. Her name was Catherine Torres. Mid-50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She specialized in estate law and had handled several high-profile cases involving found property and contested inheritance. She sat across from Marcus in the motel room and laid out a leather folder. "I've reviewed everything the police documented," she said. "I've also done research on Holloway's estate, the property history, and Oregon treasure trove law. Here's where we stand." She pulled out documents. Robert Holloway died in 1990. His estate went into probate but was never properly resolved. He had no immediate family, no will. Distant cousins surfaced but couldn't prove direct lineage. After 7 years, the property was declared abandoned and reverted to state ownership. "So it's not mine," Marcus said. "The property isn't, but the contents of the vault are a different matter. Treasure trove law states that abandoned property found on land you legally occupy can be claimed by the finder. You were legally sheltering there during an emergency. You discovered the vault. You reported it immediately. That gives you standing." "Standing to what?" "To claim a finder's fee, normally 15 to 25% in cases like this. But given the circumstances, your honesty, and the public interest, I think we can argue for more." "How much more?" 30% would be ambitious, but not impossible. We'd have to convince a judge that your actions directly led to preserving this fortune. That without you, it might have been lost or stolen by the criminal organization tracking it. Marcus did the math in his head. 30% of $245 million, over $70 million. The number made him dizzy. "What are the chances?" Catherine leaned back. 50-50. The state will fight hard. They'll argue the vault was on state property, that you had no right to enter it, that the entire fortune should go to Oregon's general fund. They'll make you look like a trespasser who got lucky. "I was fleeing a storm." "I know, and that's our strongest argument. Necessity, emergency. You didn't break into loot. You took shelter to survive. Everything else was incidental." "When does this go to court?" "First hearing is in 6 weeks, but the actual trial, if it goes that far, could be a year out, maybe more. These things move slowly." "What do we do until then?" "You stay quiet. Let me handle the media. Don't give interviews. Don't talk about the case. And stay in protective custody until the men who threatened you are caught." "Have they found them yet?" Catherine shook her head. "State police are investigating. They've identified 2 of the men from your description. Both have criminal records, connections to organized crime in California. But they're in the wind. Could be anywhere." Marcus felt cold. "So Tyler and I just wait, hiding in motel rooms?" "For now, yes. I'm sorry. But these people are dangerous. They won't stop just because police are involved." The weeks that followed were the strangest of Marcus's life. He and Tyler stayed in the motel under guard. Deputies rotated shifts outside their door. They couldn't go anywhere without escort, couldn't return to their trailer, couldn't live normal lives. Tyler stopped going to school. Marcus worked with him on homework packets teachers sent over, but the boy was struggling. He missed his friends, missed his routine, missed feeling safe. "When can we go home?" Tyler asked one night. "Soon," Marcus lied. "You always say that." "I know. I don't like it here." "Me neither, bud." Marcus tried to keep things normal. They watched movies, played card games, drew pictures, but the walls felt like they were closing in, and every time Marcus turned on the news, there was another story, another opinion, another person claiming they had a right to Holloway's fortune. A woman in Idaho came forward saying she was Robert Holloway's illegitimate daughter. DNA tests proved she was lying. A man in Texas claimed Holloway owed him money from a business deal in 1979. He had no documentation. Treasure hunters started showing up at the property. The state police had to post guards to keep people away. And through it all, the vault sat sealed, untouched, waiting. One afternoon, while Tyler napped, Marcus sat alone reading Holloway's journal. Catherine had gotten him a copy after it was entered into evidence. Page after page of a man's descent into isolation. Entries about his wife Helen and how she'd laugh at his jokes. About his daughter Sarah and her piano recitals. About the life they'd built together. Then the entries changed. After the accident. After they died. March 2nd, 1983. I went to Sarah's room today. First time in months. Her posters are still on the walls. Her books still on the shelf. I sat on her bed and I couldn't breathe. The house is full of ghosts. I can't stay here anymore, but I can't leave them behind either, so I'm trapped between two worlds, the one where they existed and this hollow one where I remain. Marcus closed the journal, his eyes burning. He understood now why Holloway had sealed the vault and walked away. The money meant nothing because the people who mattered were gone, and no amount of wealth could bring them back. He looked at Tyler sleeping peacefully on the motel bed, his small chest rising and falling. Marcus made a silent promise. If they got any money from this, he'd use it to help other parents keep their children safe, to make sure other families didn't have to choose between shelter and food, between medicine and rent, because Holloway couldn't save his family, but maybe Marcus could save others. The first court hearing was in Eugene. Catherine drove Marcus and Tyler there in her Lexus, two deputies following in an unmarked car. The courthouse was surrounded by media, cameras, reporters shouting questions. Marcus kept his head down and his arm around Tyler as they pushed through. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Journalists, lawyers, people who'd just come to watch. Marcus sat at a table beside Catherine. Across the aisle, 3 attorneys represented the state of Oregon. They looked expensive, confident. The judge was a woman named Helen Martinez, 60s, stern face. She banged her gavel, and the room fell silent. "This is a preliminary hearing to determine standing in the matter of Holloway's vault. Mr. Reed, you're claiming finder's rights to property discovered on state-owned land. The state argues you were trespassing and have no legal claim. We're here to decide if this case moves forward." Catherine stood. "Your Honor, Marcus Reed and his 7-year-old son took emergency shelter during a declared natural disaster. They had no knowledge of the vault's existence. When Mr. Reed discovered it, he immediately contacted authorities. He did not remove anything, did not attempt to profit. His actions were ethical and lawful." One of the state's attorneys stood. "Your Honor, Mr. Reed broke into a sealed property, damaged a door to gain entry. Regardless of his reasons, that constitutes trespassing. The property and everything on it belongs to the state. Mr. Reed is entitled to nothing." "He broke a rotted door to save his child's life," Catherine shot back. "Necessity is an absolute defense to trespassing, and finder's law clearly states that abandoned property discovered by someone lawfully on the premises can be claimed." The judge held up her hand. "I've read the briefs. Here's my ruling. Mr. Reed's emergency shelter claim is valid. He had every right to enter the property under those circumstances. However, the question of whether he's entitled to compensation for discovering the vault is complex. This case will proceed to trial. Both parties will present evidence. A jury will decide." The gavel banged. The hearing was over. They'd won the first round, but it was just the beginning. Outside, Catherine turned to Marcus. "That went well." "Doesn't feel like it." "Trust me." She could have dismissed the case entirely. She didn't. That means she thinks you have a legitimate claim. "How long until trial?" 8 to 10 months, maybe longer. Marcus looked at Tyler, who was sitting on a bench in the hallway, swinging his legs, looking small and tired. "I can't keep him locked in a motel for 10 months. "I know. Let me see what I can do." 2 weeks later, Catherine called with news. State police arrested 3 of the men who threatened you, found them in Northern California. They're facing charges for criminal trespass, assault, conspiracy. They're not getting out anytime soon. And the others? Still looking. But with these 3 in custody, the immediate threat is reduced. I talked to the district attorney. They're willing to let you and Tyler return to supervised housing. Nothing public, but something more stable than a motel. Like what? There's a property available. Small house, rural area, security system, close to a sheriff's station. You'd still have some restrictions, but you'd have space, privacy. Marcus closed his eyes. When? End of the week. The house was in a town called Willow Creek, population 800, 1 main street, a grocery store, a diner, a post office. The house sat on 2 acres surrounded by pine trees, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that smelled like old wood and coffee. It wasn't much, but after weeks in the motel, it felt like a mansion. Tyler ran through the rooms, his voice echoing off the bare walls. "Dad, there's a backyard. Can we get a dog?" Marcus smiled for the first time in weeks. "Maybe." They settled in slowly. Marcus enrolled Tyler in the local elementary school. The principal knew who they were, everyone did, but she was kind. Said they'd protect Tyler's privacy. Said he'd just be another student. Tyler's first day was hard. Marcus walked him to the classroom, feeling more nervous than his son looked. The teacher, Mrs. Henderson, greeted them warmly. She knelt down to Tyler's level. "I hear you like to draw," she said. Tyler nodded shyly. "Well, we have an art station in the back. You can use it whenever you want." Tyler's face brightened slightly. Marcus squeezed his shoulder. "I'll pick you up at 3, okay?" "Okay, Dad." Watching Tyler walk into that classroom, small backpack on his shoulders, Marcus felt something crack open in his chest. This kid had been through so much. The storm, the vault, the men, the media, protective custody, and he was still showing up, still trying, still trusting that things would be okay. Marcus sat in his truck in the parking lot for 20 minutes, unable to leave. What if the other kids were mean? What if they asked questions Tyler couldn't answer? What if someone's parent recognized him from the news and caused trouble? But when he picked Tyler up that afternoon, the boy was smiling. "I made a friend. His name's Jacob. He likes dinosaurs." "That's great, Bud. And Mrs. Henderson said my drawing of a robot was really good. She put it on the bulletin board." Marcus pulled him into a hug. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For being brave." Tyler thrived after that. Made friends, joined the soccer team, came home with drawings and stories and that light back in his eyes. Marcus watched his son heal and felt something loosen in his chest. But the case dragged on. Depositions, motions, endless paperwork. Catherine worked tirelessly. She built their case piece by piece, character witnesses who spoke about Marcus's honesty, expert testimony on Finder's law, documentation of everything he'd done right. The state pushed back hard. They argued the vault was part of the property, that Holloway's intent didn't matter, that Marcus was just a lucky trespasser. They brought in their own experts, economists who calculated what the state could do with $245 million. Schools, roads, social programs. Marcus watched it all from a distance. He went to every hearing, sat through every deposition. But it felt surreal, like it was happening to someone else. During one particularly brutal deposition, the state's attorney pressed hard. "Mr. Reed, isn't it true you were behind on rent?" "Yes." 3 months behind, correct?" "Yes." "And you'd been fired from your last steady job?" "Laid off, the shop closed." "So you were desperate for money?" "I was struggling, yes." "Desperate enough to see an opportunity in that vault?" Catherine objected. "Counselor, my client called the police immediately. There's no evidence of opportunism. I'm establishing motive." "Motive for what? Being honest?" The attorney ignored her. "Mr. Reed, how much research did you do on treasure trove law before calling the police?" "None." "None at all?" "I didn't even know what treasure trove law was." "So you called the police without knowing if you'd be entitled to anything?" "I called the police because it was the right thing to do." Convenient answer. Marcus leaned forward. "It's the truth. I didn't think about money. I thought about those men who might come looking. I thought about keeping Tyler safe, that's all." The attorney paused, studying him, then moved on to other questions. But Marcus could tell something had shifted. His honesty wasn't just a legal strategy. It was real. And even people trying to discredit him could feel it. One night, after a particularly exhausting day of legal prep, Marcus found Tyler in the backyard. The boy was lying in the grass, staring up at the stars. "What are you doing, bud?" "Thinking." Marcus lay down beside him. "About what?" "About Mr. Holloway, the man who built the vault." "What about him? Do you think he was happy before his family died?" Marcus thought about the journal entries, the photographs, the life Holloway had built. "Yeah, I think he was very happy." "Then he must have been really sad after." "Probably the saddest a person can be." "Is that why he hid everything? Because it reminded him of when he was happy?" Marcus looked at his son, amazed at his insight. "Maybe. Or maybe he just didn't care about any of it anymore. When you lose the people you love, nothing else matters." Tyler was quiet for a moment. "I'm glad I didn't lose you." Marcus's throat tightened. "Me too, bud. Me too." Public opinion shifted as the case dragged on. At first, people were divided. Some thought Marcus deserved everything. Others thought he deserved nothing. But as the media dug deeper into his story, sympathy grew. They interviewed people from Timber Ridge, co-workers who said Marcus always helped others even when he was broke, teachers who said Tyler was a sweet kid who'd been through too much, neighbors who remembered Marcus shoveling snow from their driveways or fixing their cars for free. One interview particularly touched Marcus. It was with an elderly woman named Mrs. Chen who lived 3 lots down from his trailer. She told the reporter about a winter night 2 years ago when her furnace died. "It was 15 degrees, she said. "I called everyone. Plumbers wanted $300 just to come out. I didn't have that kind of money. Then Marcus knocked on my door, said he'd heard my furnace was out. He worked on it for 4 hours in my crawl space. Got it running. I tried to pay him. He wouldn't take a cent, said I reminded him of his grandmother." She wiped her eyes. "That's the kind of man he is. And now people want to take from him? Shame on them." The interview went viral. Suddenly Marcus wasn't just a man who found money. He was a man who'd spent his life helping others despite having nothing himself. A GoFundMe appeared online. Marcus didn't start it, didn't even know about it until Catherine called. "You've got people donating to help with legal costs." "I don't need donations. You're working on contingency." "They want to help. They believe in you. As of this morning, it's raised $47,000. Marcus sat down hard. "That's insane. That's people seeing themselves in you, seeing what they'd want someone to do for them." The money from the GoFundMe was eventually donated to a legal aid fund for low-income families facing property disputes. Marcus insisted. He didn't feel right keeping money people had given out of kindness. The trial finally began in month 9, Superior Court in Salem, Judge Martinez presiding. The courtroom was packed every day, media, spectators, people who'd traveled from across the country just to watch. Catherine's opening statement was powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about a man who did everything right in impossible circumstances. Marcus Reed didn't ask to find a fortune. He didn't seek it out. He was fleeing a storm, protecting his son, trying to survive. When he stumbled onto something extraordinary, he could have taken it, could have hidden it, could have disappeared. Instead, he called the police. He documented everything. He did what any honest person should do. And now the state wants to punish him for that honesty, wants to say his ethics mean nothing, that his actions mean nothing. I'm asking you to send a different message, that doing the right thing matters, that integrity should be rewarded, not penalized. The state's attorney countered. This isn't about Mr. Reed's character, it's about the law. The property belongs to Oregon. The vault belongs to Oregon. Everything inside belongs to Oregon. Mr. Reed may be a good man, may have acted ethically, but that doesn't give him legal claim to millions of dollars that rightfully belong to the people of this state, to our schools, our infrastructure, our public services. We're asking you to follow the law, not emotions. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witnesses testified, experts argued. Marcus took the stand and told his story. Catherine walked him through everything: the storm, the house, finding the vault, the letter from Holloway, the men who came. "Why didn't you take anything?" Catherine asked. "Because it wasn't mine. Even though you needed money desperately. Especially because of that. I wanted to teach my son that needing something doesn't give you the right to take it. What would you do with the money if you won?" Marcus looked at the jury, 12 faces watching him intently. "First, I'd make sure Tyler has everything he needs: education, security, opportunities I never had. Then I'd help other people, other single parents struggling like I was. I know what it's like to choose between rent and food, to work 3 jobs and still come up short. If I could help even one family avoid that, it would mean something." The state's cross-examination was brutal. They painted Marcus as opportunistic, lucky, someone who wanted to profit from accidentally stumbling onto someone else's property. But Marcus didn't waver. He told the truth. Simple, direct, honest. They tried to trap him. "Mr. Reed, you've said you wanted to teach your son ethics, but isn't it true you've had parking tickets you never paid, utility bills that went to collections?" "Yes." "So you don't always follow the rules?" "I couldn't always afford to. Parking tickets or groceries. I chose groceries." Convenient excuse. It's not an excuse, it's reality. When you're broke, you make impossible choices every day. I'm not proud of the bills I couldn't pay, but I always paid them eventually, always tried to do right when I could. Robert Holloway's journal was entered into evidence. Catherine read passages aloud. The entries about losing his family, about how money meant nothing, about his wish that the fortune help someone who needed it. "Mr. Holloway left a letter," Catherine said. "A letter specifically addressed to whoever found his vault. He said, and I quote, 'It's yours, all of it. Maybe it'll mean something to you. This isn't theft. This isn't trespassing. This is a dying man's final wish being fulfilled by someone who honored his memory.' She called a handwriting expert who verified every document was authentic, called a forensic accountant who traced Holloway's accumulation of wealth, all legal, all documented, called psychologists who explained how trauma can lead people to isolate and hide possessions. The jury heard from everyone: the deputies who responded to Marcus's call, the technicians who documented the vault, even one of the criminals who'd been arrested brought in to testify about the organization that had been tracking the property for years. "How long had your group known about the vault?" the prosecutor asked. 15 years, maybe more. "And what was your plan?" "Wait for someone to find it, then take it from them." "By force if necessary?" The man looked at Marcus. "Whatever it took." "And Mr. Reed stopped you?" "He called the cops before we could move, ruined everything." On redirect, Catherine asked, So if Mr. Reed hadn't called the police, your organization would have stolen everything from that vault. Yes. Meaning his actions directly preserved this fortune for the state? I guess. You guess or you know? We would have taken it. Yeah. The testimony was damning. It proved Marcus's call to the police had saved the fortune from being lost forever. It gave weight to Catherine's argument that he deserved significant compensation for that act. The jury deliberated for 4 days. Marcus barely ate, barely slept. Tyler stayed with Derek's family so he wouldn't see his father fall apart. Catherine called every few hours with updates. No news yet. Still deliberating. Could mean anything. Marcus spent those 4 days walking, through Willow Creek, along country roads, trying to breathe, trying not to think about what would happen if they lost, if months of stress and fear and hope had been for nothing. On the 4th day, the call came. They've reached a verdict. Court reconvenes in 2 hours. Marcus drove to Salem with his hands shaking. Derek met him at the courthouse with Tyler. The boy looked scared. "It's okay, Bud," Marcus said, though he didn't know if it was. "Are we going to lose everything?" "We've got each other. That's not nothing." They sat in the courtroom. Marcus sat next to Catherine, barely breathing. The jury filed in. 12 faces. Impossible to read. "Have you reached a verdict?" Judge Martinez asked. The forewoman stood. She was a middle-aged woman, a teacher, Marcus remembered from jury selection. She looked directly at him. "We have, Your Honor." "In the matter of Reed versus the state of Oregon, how do you find?" The forewoman took a breath. The courtroom was silent enough to hear hearts beating. "We find in favor of Marcus Reed. We award him finder's rights to 15% of the Holloway Vault's total appraised value." The courtroom erupted. Marcus couldn't hear anything over the roar in his ears. 15%. He did the math. 15% of $245 million, $36,750,000. Catherine grabbed his arm. "We won. Marcus, we won." He couldn't speak, couldn't move. 36 million. The number was impossible, unreal. His vision blurred and he realized he was crying. Tyler was crying too, though Marcus didn't think the boy fully understood what it meant. Derek was shaking his hand, grinning. People were clapping despite the judge calling for order. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. "Order. The jury has also stipulated that Mr. Reed's exemplary conduct, his immediate reporting of the discovery, and his cooperation with authorities were significant factors in their decision. Furthermore, they recommend that the remaining 85% be divided between the State General Fund and the establishment of a historical trust to preserve the Holloway property and create a museum dedicated to Mr. Holloway's life and the history of technology innovation in Oregon." Marcus finally found his voice. "Thank you, all of you, thank you." Outside, the media was deafening. Questions shouted from every direction. Catherine held up her hand. "Mr. Reed will make a brief statement, then we're done." Marcus stepped to the microphone. He'd prepared nothing, spoke from his heart. "I didn't do anything special. I did what anyone should do. I found something that didn't belong to me and reported it. That's not heroic. That's basic decency. I'm grateful to the jury for recognizing that, and I promise I'll use this money to help others, to make sure other families don't have to struggle the way we did. Thank you." They drove back to Willow Creek in silence. Marcus's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Reporters, lawyers, financial advisors, people claiming to be long-lost relatives. He turned it off. When they got to the house, Tyler was quiet. Too quiet. Marcus pulled him aside. "What's wrong, Bud?" "Nothing." "Tyler." The boy's eyes filled with tears. "What if the money changes us? What if we become different people?" Marcus knelt down. "Listen to me. Money is just paper. It can't change who we are unless we let it. We're still us, still Marcus and Tyler, still a team, still the same guys who eat cereal for dinner and watch cartoons on Saturday mornings. Nothing about that changes unless we choose to let it, okay? Promise?" I promise. The money didn't come right away. There were taxes, legal fees, processing. It took 3 months before the first transfer hit Marcus's new bank account. Catherine had connected him with financial advisors, people who specialized in sudden wealth, people who'd help him not lose it all. They moved carefully, paid off every debt, bought a modest house, not a mansion, just a comfortable 3-bedroom in a good school district near Willow Creek. Marcus bought Tyler new clothes, new shoes, a bike, enrolled him in music lessons because Tyler had mentioned once that he wanted to learn guitar. But Marcus didn't go crazy, didn't buy sports cars or yachts or mansions. He remembered Holloway's words, "Money didn't save the people I loved. Maybe it'll mean something to you." He made it mean something. First, he established a foundation, the Reed Family Trust for single parents in crisis. The mission was simple: provide emergency financial assistance to single parents facing eviction, utility shutoffs, or food insecurity. No lengthy applications, no judgment, just help when it was needed most. The foundation launched with $5 million. Marcus hired a small staff. People who understood poverty, who'd lived it, who wouldn't judge applicants or make them jump through hoops. Within 6 months, they'd helped over 2,000 families. Rent paid, lights kept on, groceries delivered. Marcus read every application personally, saw himself in every story, saw Tyler in every child who just needed their parent to catch a break. One application hit particularly hard. A single mother named Jessica in Bend. 3 kids, working 2 jobs. Car broke down, couldn't get to work. About to lose everything. Marcus approved $5,000 immediately, enough for car repairs and a month's buffer. Jessica sent a thank you letter. Marcus kept it on his desk. "Dear Mr. Reed, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I had to try. Your foundation saved my family, not just financially. You gave me hope. You reminded me that good people still exist. My kids won't go hungry this month. We won't lose our apartment. I can get to work. All because you decided to help a stranger." I'm crying as I write this. Not sad tears, grateful ones. Thank you for seeing us. Thank you for caring. You didn't just give us money, you gave us a future. I'll pay it forward someday, when I'm back on my feet. I'll help someone else the way you helped me, that's a promise. With all my gratitude, Jessica. Marcus read that letter a dozen times. Each time he felt the same thing. Purpose. This was why Holloway's vault had existed, not for the money itself, but for the chance to make it mean something. Next, he returned to Timber Ridge, the town that had been his home, even when it hadn't felt like one. He met with the mayor, with business owners, with community leaders, and he made an offer. "I want to invest in this town, create jobs, rebuild infrastructure, fund programs, but I don't want credit. I don't want buildings named after me. I just want to help." They were skeptical at first. People didn't just give away millions. But Marcus was serious. He funded a new community center, upgraded the school's computer lab, provided grants for small businesses, created a job training program for people transitioning out of poverty. He also did something unexpected. He tracked down Gil, the trailer park manager who'd been so quick to criticize him on television. Found him working at a hardware store, fired from the park after the owners sold the property. "Marcus," Gil said, looking uncomfortable. "Look, I'm sorry about what I said on TV. I was bitter. You didn't deserve that." "I know. I lost my job because of it. Owners didn't like the publicity." Marcus nodded. "I heard. That's actually why I'm here." Jill tensed. "If you're here to rub it in." "I'm here to offer you a job. My foundation needs a property manager, someone who knows housing issues, knows what low-income families face. You interested?" Gil stared. "You're serious?" "Completely. You weren't wrong about me being behind on rent. I was, and there were reasons for that. But you were doing your job. I respect that. So, you want the job or not?" Gil's eyes filled. Yeah, I want it." "Good. You start Monday." Within a year, Timber Ridge was transformed, unemployment dropped, businesses opened, families stayed instead of leaving, and people started believing again that their town mattered. Marcus also kept his promise to Holloway. He worked with the state to preserve the property where the vault had been found. The house was restored carefully, exactly as it had been. The vault was left intact behind glass, visible but untouchable. They created the Robert James Holloway Museum of Technology and Innovation. It told his story, showed his inventions, honored his family. The photograph Marcus had found, the one of Holloway and his wife and daughter, was enlarged and hung in the entrance, smiling, alive, remembered. Marcus insisted on one more thing, a quiet memorial in the garden behind the museum. 3 stone markers, Helen Holloway, Sarah Holloway, Robert James Holloway, together again. At the opening ceremony, Marcus gave a speech. Robert Holloway was a man who lost everything and tried to find meaning in what remained. He couldn't. But maybe we can give his story the ending he deserved. A legacy that helps others, that inspires people, that proves even our darkest moments can lead to light. Tyler cut the ribbon. Cameras flashed. The museum opened, and people came. Students, historians, families. They walked through the rooms where Marcus and Tyler had sheltered from the storm. They saw the vault. They learned Holloway's story, and they left changed. Marcus went back to work too, not because he needed money, because he needed purpose. He started a handyman service specifically for single parents and low-income families. Free repairs, no charge, just help. He hired people like him, people who'd been down, who'd struggled, who knew what it meant to need a break. They fixed roofs, replaced water heaters, repaired furnaces, did the work that kept families safe and warm. Word spread, requests poured in. Marcus expanded, hired more people, bought more trucks. Within 2 years, they were operating in 5 counties, helping hundreds of families every month. One afternoon, Marcus got a call from a woman in Eugene. Her furnace had died. She was elderly, on a fixed income, scared. Marcus drove out personally. When he knocked on the door, she opened it, and her face went pale. "You're that man from the news, the one who found the fortune." "Yes, ma'am, but right now, I'm just here to fix your furnace." He worked for 3 hours, got it running, refused payment. As he was leaving, she grabbed his hand. "Why would someone like you do this? You're rich. You don't need to crawl around in crawl spaces." Marcus thought about that. "My son asked me something once. He asked if I'd still fix things after we got the money. I told him yes, because fixing things is who I am. The money didn't change that, just gave me more freedom to do it right." The woman smiled. "Robert Holloway would be proud of you." "I hope so." Tyler thrived. He excelled in school, made honor roll, joined the robotics club, learned to play guitar so well his teacher said he had real talent. But more than that, he was happy, confident. The scared little boy who'd hidden in a closet while dangerous men searched for him was gone. In his place was a kid who smiled easily, who helped others, who believed the world was good. Marcus and Tyler volunteered together on weekends, at food banks, homeless shelters, community gardens. Tyler never complained, never asked why they had to help when they could be doing something fun. "Because we can," he'd say simply, "and Mr. Holloway would want us to." One evening, Marcus found Tyler in his room working on homework. He sat on the edge of the bed. "You know what I'm proud of?" Marcus asked. "What?" "You. Not because of your grades or your music, but because you're kind. Because you help your classmates when they're struggling. Because you're growing into a good person." Tyler looked up. "I learned from you." "I learned from you too, Bud. You were brave when I needed you to be. You trusted me even when things were scary. You made me want to be better." "We made each other better." Marcus pulled him into a hug. "Yeah, we did." 18 months after the trial, state police called. They'd caught the last 2 men from the group that had threatened Marcus and Tyler. found them in Mexico trying to broker a deal for stolen art. They were extradited, charged, convicted, sentenced to 15 years. Marcus testified at their trial, saw the tall man who'd held the knife, who'd threatened Tyler. The man didn't look dangerous anymore, just old, defeated, beaten by the fact that Marcus had won by doing the right thing. "You could have had it all," the man said as they led him away. "Could have taken the money and disappeared." "I didn't want it all," Marcus replied. "I just wanted my son to be safe, and I wanted to be able to look at myself in the mirror." "How's that working out? Better than your way?" Exactly 2 years after that storm, Marcus drove back to the museum. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon, few visitors. He walked through the rooms slowly, remembering the terror of that first night, the discovery of the vault, the weight of the decision he'd made. He stood in front of the vault, now behind protective glass. The ledger was displayed, the letter, the photograph of Holloway's family. Marcus read the letter again, the one addressed to whoever found it. "Good luck. You'll need it." He smiled. Holloway had been right. Marcus had needed luck. But he'd also needed courage, integrity, faith that doing right mattered even when it would have been easier to do wrong. He walked outside. The forest had recovered from the storm. New growth pushed through old scars. Birds sang in the branches. The clearing where he'd parked his truck that desperate night was now a paved lot with a historical marker. Marcus sat on a bench and called Tyler. The boy was at robotics club, answered on the third ring. "Hey, Dad, what's up?" "Just thinking about you. Wanted to hear your voice." "I'm fine. We're building a robot that sorts recycling." "That's cool." "Yeah, Mr. Peterson says if we win regionals we might go to state." "You'll win." "How do you know?" "Because you work hard, because you care, that's all it takes." Tyler was quiet for a moment. "Dad, I'm glad we found that house." "Me too, bud. Not because of the money, because it taught me something." "What's that?" "That doing the right thing is always worth it, even when it's hard." Marcus's throat tightened. "Yeah, exactly that." After they hung up, Marcus sat for a long time, watching the trees, listening to the wind, thinking about how far they'd come, how close they'd been to losing everything, how one decision, one moment of integrity had changed their lives. He thought about all the families his foundation had helped, the single mothers who didn't get evicted, the kids who didn't go hungry, the parents who could afford medicine or car repairs or school supplies. He thought about Timber Ridge, transformed from a dying town into a place with hope. He thought about Robert Holloway, about a man who'd built a fortune and lost what mattered, about how his final act had been leaving that fortune for someone else, someone who might give it meaning. And Marcus had, not by spending it on himself, but by using it to help others, to build something bigger than money, to prove that wealth without purpose was just paper. But wealth used right could change lives. Anyone can change the world if they're stubborn enough to stand their ground and brave enough to speak the truth. As the sun dipped below the tree line, Marcus stood and walked back to his truck. Tomorrow he had repairs scheduled, 3 families who needed help, work that mattered more than any paycheck ever could, because he'd learned something in that crumbling house during that desperate storm. He'd learned that the real fortune wasn't what you found, it was what you did with it, how you let it change you, who you became because of it. And Marcus Reed, once a broke handyman barely scraping by, had become someone who gave rather than took, who built rather than destroyed, who proved that integrity wasn't just a word, it was a choice you made every single day. He started the engine and drove home. Tyler would be back soon. They'd have dinner together, talk about robots and guitar lessons and what they'd do this weekend. Maybe volunteer at the food bank, maybe help repair someone's porch. They'd live simply, love deeply, help others. And they'd remember that sometimes our darkest storms lead us to unexpected light. Not because of what we find, but because of who we choose to be when tested. The mechanic who once fixed engines for pennies had rebuilt something far more important. He'd rebuilt faith, in honesty, in goodness, in the idea that doing right still mattered in a world that often rewarded wrong, and every family he helped, every life he touched, every person who heard his story and decided to do better. They were proof that one man's integrity could ripple outward, changing not just his life, but countless others, because for Marcus Reed and for everyone who believed in him, the real treasure was never the $245 million hidden beneath a rotting floor. It was the reminder that character costs nothing but pays everything, that our choices define us more than our circumstances, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply be honest when no one would have blamed you for being anything else. The end. Up next, 2 more powerful stories are waiting for you. Click to keep discovering, and don't forget to hit subscribe if you believe the truth deserves a voice.